given their lives in service to the country. We have a POW-MIA flag, and so I kind of think of that as a good analogy or way to think about the sort of purpose that a flag to honor those who've been killed in service to the country would serve as well. That is, to be on flagpoles. And I just learned it would fly underneath the POW-MIA flag as close to half staff as we've done outside on flagpoles, and we can use it for that. So when Terry sent us email about this, we were thrilled to have more information and to be a part of this. And I've already told Mr. Lutz that we'll do everything we can here on our website and through our channels to promote this effort. And he is going to talk to us about what actually is involved in getting this flag sanctioned, if you will, or legislated. I'm not quite sure what the process is as part of our national commemoration flags that we have. And Terry, would you like to maybe introduce Mr. Lutz?
Oh, sure. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Linnea. I know it's short notice, but I have to say that I am very honored to have met George Lutz. He is a Gold Star father, lost his son through sniper barrage in Fallujah in '05. And as a Gold Star mother, I can only say that what he's doing gives me inspiration and motivation to continue to even get up out of bed some days. And so important because this is the things that we instilled in our own children. And I am very honored to announce Mr. George Lutz. He's the founder of this Honor and Remember program.
Thank you. I don't want to be formal, but you guys are all spread out all over the place. So I'm going to have to do this. But forgive me if I go to one side or another. But thank you for the opportunity to be here and to have an opportunity to share my message, because I believe in my message as passionately as anyone can believe in anything. And I think that as I've realized how much passion I have for this, I can only hope that each of you, in whatever your mission is, can embody the same passion that I feel. Because I can't imagine feeling any stronger about any cause in my life or in my past up till now. As Terry mentioned, my son was killed in December of '05 by a sniper's bullet. I got that knock on the door the morning of December 3rd, which is that knock that no one can prepare for, no one anticipates, but it comes nonetheless. And it's one of the most devastating, not the devastating thing that a family can go through. And there is no big enough word to describe what that means and what that feels like. And I want to share with you a little bit about how I got to this point, so you understand the depth of my emotions on this and the importance, the so importance of this being a part of our nation, the fabric of our nation. And one of the things that I went through in this process of grieving was memories. Because I knew that there would be no more memories of my son. Everything ended on that day, December 29th. Or actually before that, because the last time I spoke to him was on his birthday, December 12th. And so I think I might have had a conversation with him online after that. But you know that there's no more memories that are going to happen. You're never going to hear his voice again. You're never going to see his face. And I began to fear would I forget what he looked like, or would I forget what he sounded like. And I began he was married, so he hadn't lived in the house for a while. And I began to gravitate towards everything I could that had anything to do with his memory. Photographs, emails, videotapes, handwritten notes, anything that would give me one more day of his memory. And that came to an end. And I don't think the boxes and finding everything I could. And then I went out to his friends because he had a life of his own. He had been to college. He was very gregarious, so he had a lot of people that he knew. And I wanted to know what they had. I wanted to know what pictures they had. I wanted to hear what stories they had. Again, I wanted to add one more day of memory. And that process came. And you still hope that once in a while you'll get one piece of information. Actually, a friend of mine, not a friend of mine, but I got an email about 3 weeks ago, and it was from someone who knew my son, and they knew I was on this trip, and they said, please, come stay at our house. I'm really good. So I look forward to that. Once I ended that portion with his friends, I began to seek after those he served because I wanted to know how good he did his job. What kind of a soldier was he? Were they proud of him? Did he do his job well? And even how did he serve over in Iraq where he was? And what process his life took at that moment? Even to that day, what he had for breakfast that morning. I mean, I wanted to know, and I don't know if the moms felt that way or not, but I wanted to know everything that I could about how he lived. And that came to me. Because I'm going to tell you that many of those soldiers don't want to talk about it. They feel so guilty that they're coming home. And it takes a lot for a soldier to face a family. It takes a lot. And I will tell you, though, this, to those that are listening, the families want to hear you. They want to hear from you, and it's okay. You know, we shed a lot of tears, and it's okay. But the most important thing that these families want is connection. And don't ever think that you're going to upset the Gold Star family by staying away. That's quite the opposite. Because believe me, there's not a day goes by that they're not thinking about their loved ones. You can't mess that up. And then I realized that my son died in his country. And I wanted to know how this country remembered him. Anybody call it? And so I began to look around at all the ways that this country remembers. And what I found was pretty lacking. Because what I found was that the veterans and the military do a great job. They're building amazing memorials, putting names on walls, monuments, everywhere. Those wonderful, beautiful icons in Washington, D.C. for those, the Vietnam War, the World War II Memorial. Wonderful, wonderful buildings that were built by veterans, pretty much. And they were built for veterans. And my thought was, how many people, and I don't know what the statistics are, how many people will actually get to those monuments in Washington, D.C., or right here in St. Louis? How many will come? I think maybe 5% of the population of the United States will ever see a monument. So I thought, it's not enough. I began to realize that the American public doesn't understand that we're still having a war. You never hear about it on the news anymore, unless something really tragic happens. There's no mention. And so that wasn't it. I knew the airways weren't going to bring about any kind of remembrance. And what I thought was, there needed to be some way that the public had a tangible reminder that freedom had a price. Something tangible. I didn't know what that was, but I wanted to embrace it, whatever it was. And I saw it everywhere, and I think only the Gold Star families will understand this. But I'll give you a little insight. The phrase on most of our bumper stickers that says, support our troops. I saw that everywhere after my son died. Pray for our troops. But you know, my son was once embodied that phrase, but he didn't come home. And so, every time I saw that, it bothered me because he wasn't a part of it. That symbol wasn't for him. And yet, I realized we needed to support our troops and pray for our troops, and still do. But I was in a process of grief, and I was looking for remembrance. I was looking for recognition. And so that bothered me. And I thought, well, why? That's not the whole message. The whole message is to support our military, but to remember our fall. And what I realized was the reason that we didn't have that message was because everybody was okay with the fact that we have a day to remember those that were killed. And that's Memorial Day. And that became my, aha moment, which was, it's not anybody's fault. It's just it's all they know. That when we lose someone, we're going to remember them on Memorial Day. And I began to think through that and think, well, I don't remember just on Memorial Day. I have to remember every day. And his friends have to remember every day. And those that serve with him remember every day. So how is it the rest of the population gets to only remember on Memorial Day, and on that day they're having a picnic? They're not thinking about it anyway. I have to admit, I wasn't thinking about it when my son was serving. It was just another day to me. And after he died, it became a whole different perspective. And I began to attend funerals after, in the first couple of months, other families that were going through the same thing, because I started to think outside of myself and realize that people were being caused pain the next day, the next day, the next month. More and more of our military men and women were dying. And I wanted to reach out to those families. And so I began to speak to them, attend the funerals, not in any way, but to just say, I'm here, I'm a Gold Star dad, and if you need to talk, call me. Just that alone was enough to really bring comfort to some of these families. And I know you probably do that as well. And as I began to attend those funerals and speak to those families, I began to speak to past generations. I began to be involved with the American Gold Star Mothers. And in that group, talk to families going back in generations to Vietnam, Grenada, to past generations. And I realized that two things I would hear over and over, the same cry over and over. Please don't let this have been in vain. And please don't let them be forgotten. And I hear families tell me, even as early as today, when I was in Springfield with a Gold Star mom, I have to talk about my son all the time because people don't remember that he died for his country. And that's sad. That is so sad to me. And as I was attending these funerals, I would see the POW flag flying at the memorials. And I would think to myself, what an honor that was that the POWs were given a flag to be remembered. For those that were missing or captured. What an honor that was. What an important point that was. Because we needed that recognition in that country. But there were almost 59,000 killed in Vietnam. And I thought, why don't they have it? There were hundreds of thousands killed prior to World War II, World War I, Korea, all the way to the Revolution. Over 2 million killed in action. not let alone those that died while serving some capacity or as a result of serving in some capacity. They didn't have a flag. There was no symbol that identified them. And I started to look around for public symbols and research and figure out, even through military symbolism, what was out there. And I couldn't find anything besides the military symbols that were created, like the gold star banner, blue star banners. But they weren't public symbols. They weren't allowed to be flown by the public. And I will tell you that the public doesn't know what a gold star family is. You can do a survey on the street, and I'll guarantee you that probably 10 out of 10 will not know, unless they're military. And I will tell you, a lot of military don't know what a gold star is. So there's a lot of education done in this country. And so after I went through this process, and looking at the POW flag, I thought, if there could be flags for everything in this country, and if you think about it, and I'm giving you something a little bit to go out with, and you'll start becoming more aware. We have flags for everything. And flags identify groups of people that have a common interest or a common goal or a common purpose. And we have flags for everything. The Army has a flag, every branch of the service has a flag, every general has their own flag, every ship in the Navy has their own flag. There's even a flag that directs where you get your golf ball. But in the history of our country, there has never been a flag for those that gave their lives. And I thought that was a void that we had to fill. And so I couldn't get anybody else to do it. I tried really hard because I am not the guy. I am not the guy, and I will tell you, I'm the one that dreaded having to get up in front of a class of people I knew in speech and give a speech about anything. I would avoid that, be deathly ill before standing up in front of even people I knew. So I was not the guy. And I tried to pass this on, and with nobody caught it. Nobody got it. And everybody was caught in something else. You know, there are a lot of good causes. And I think that out of great tragedy, I believe, comes great results. And so 2 years ago, with a lot of prayer and a lot of support, the Honor and Remember flag was created, was designed and created. This is what that flag looks like. Ready? On May 26, 2008, the Honor and Remember flag was unveiled in the public for the first time. The symbolism behind this flag is probably easily identifiable for you. But I wanted this flag to be easily identified, to be distinctive, to be attractive, and for people when they saw it to go, what is that? I need to know what that is. Because it's meant not to be a somber memorial, but it's meant to be a celebration, a thank you for sacrifice. And the symbolism on this flag, I'm going to explain it to you so you know you heard it from me. Is the red field of this flag stands for the bloodshed, a better color than blood. Bloodshed. This is American flag red, by the way. The white field underneath this flag stands for the purity of that sacrifice, because our sons and our daughters went over on a mission, and each one of them said, I've got it covered, don't worry, I'll be back. The blue star in the center of this, we all know, goes back to World War I, when a solid blue star was on the windows and doors of military families, letting people know that they had relatives, loved ones out in the fight. The gold star overlaying with the blue star, again going back to World War I, meant that that life was not coming home, that their loved ones had perished. And that is where we get the term Gold Star family, Gold Star mother, Gold Star father. The folded flag beneath it lays stars we all recognize as the folded flag and to their family member at the loss of their loved one at the memorial. And the flames above it are an eternal reminder that we will never forget. I would hear that over and over. We will never forget. But I never saw any action put to those words. And the words below, we will always honor that sacrifice and remember them specifically by name. Because each one of our loved ones were names. Not statistics, not numbers, but individuals, family, extended family, friends, veterans that served with them, who remember them. And so, within 3 months of establishing the flag, our state congresswoman decided that she would introduce a bill to Congress to make this an official United States symbol. And there is a bill right now in Congress, HRAA13, establishing honorable member as national symbol. But Congress moved very slow. She wasn't reelected. The bill went by the wayside, and then 3 months later had to be reintroduced by another congressman, which it has been sitting in the committee. And about a year ago, the state of Pennsylvania approached me and said, we want to memorialize this flag. We want it to become a national symbol. So we're going to write a resolution and send it to Congress, tell them that they need to adopt this. And they did that unanimously in the House and in the Senate. But it wasn't enough, because I don't want individuals, organizations, or states to just think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I want them to embrace it. I want them to adopt it. I want them to fly it. Because when they fly it, then they are making a statement that they want to remember, that they want to care, and that they want to say thank you to all of those that have suffered such great price. And so I wanted the states to adopt it as a state symbol of remembrance. Because then they would fly it for their state Gold Star families. And they would make a statement more powerful than endorsing Congress. Because Congress will just fly in federal buildings. They're not going to fly in state buildings or in state symbols. And those issues like that. And so, being from Virginia, and my current governor happened to know about the flag and what I was trying to do. He said, I would like for Virginia to be the first state to adopt this flag. And so Virginia did become the first state. And since then, we have had probably a half a dozen states adopt the flag, and maybe 20 more that have some form of legislation in the works. So my mission, if you will, my journey, has been to travel to all 50 states, to touch individuals everywhere I go, and to leave an imprint of the Honor and Remember flag with state legislators in all 50 states. And so I've been traveling for 17 states now for 6 weeks, over 7,000 miles. And I have gotten commitments from every single state that I have been to. I have, 33 more states to go before I end in Arlington Cemetery on November 11th, where I hope to have a final ceremony with the progress of all that's been done, and to plant Honor and Remember flags, 5,000 in Arlington Cemetery on that last day. But this became more to me than just getting a flag flown. A piece of cloth in the wind, blowing for all of us to ignore. I wanted to be able to make an individual difference. I wanted to be able to reach out to the families that have lost so much in some tangible way. And so the flag becomes a gift, if you will. The flying of that flag becomes your gift to these families. But the flag was designed in a way that it could be personalized. And as an organization, we are not just trying to get the flag flown, although that is a big, important step to what we're doing. But we're also presenting flags to families individually and saying thank you to them on a personal level. And as my organization's goal, you can see this, to present a personal flag like this in a public ceremony to every family who has ever lost a loved one throughout our country's history. And to show that this flag is for all generations, not just our current generation, but for all generations. You can see that this flag was actually made for a mother who lost her son in Korea in 1950. She was the oldest living Gold Star mother that I was aware of. Her name was Molly Snyder. She's from Pennsylvania. Mixed it up a little bit. But she was 99 years old last February, and the week that I was making this flag for her, she passed away. And so I was never able to present it to her. And I asked her friends, she didn't have any other friends, and I asked her friends if I might keep this flag as a reminder and an example of the generations of lives that we hope to touch. And we have presented flags, hundreds of flags now. And you can imagine there's tens of thousands of families out there. And we have presented several hundred flags to generations going back to widows of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Grenada, Iraq, Afghanistan. And the flag is not just for those that have died in action, but those that have died in training, that have died while serving in some capacity, or as a result of serving. We have had so many that have come back with PTSD and committed suicide, or worse, if you're going to be and those from Vietnam who have suffered and died from Agent Orange or other diseases. As a result, many years later, but still as a result of their service. And we honor this flag, honors them as well. So it spans such and encompasses such a wide group of individuals that can be honored and flag. And that really is my little talk today. We have a petition online. The petition is more for federal adoption to show that there is support around this country for this. If you're able to share, go there, sign the petition, share that with friends, coworkers. That would be wonderful. Fly the flag. I would strongly urge that you fly the flag. And the other thing is, think of ways that maybe this is a huge mission for us. Me in particular. But think about ways that you can honor family with a flag like this. Because I would like to see that happen beyond myself. I can come into a city and have a flag and present that may be one thing. But if a community gathers together and recognizes those families, and we do that, then how much more meaningful, I believe, that is coming from the community. So that's just something to consider. And since we're really kind of informal here, are there any questions?
You have a little flag.
I do have flags for sale with me on the bus. If anybody's interested, my buddy right there, Alex, can help you with that. We have hats and flags. We have lots of different sizes, shapes, styles. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's it cost?
The flag, to personalize a flag.
Cold water in the coolers for anyone who wants to partake, either now or after the ceremony. I'm Kenny Jones, representative from the 117th District, just west of here at California, Missouri, and it's my honor to introduce those who follow me. But I think this is a great project that's been started, and I will, without further ado, I'll introduce Katie Millis, who is the American Gold Star Mother President for the St. Louis area. But welcome to Jeff City, and we found the only cool spot around the Capitol. It's good to be here.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so happy to see everybody. Nice crowd. As Kenny said, my name's Katie Milius. I'm the St. Louis chapter president of the American Gold Star Mothers. And I am kind of the MC today. Most of us are going to keep it pretty short till we get to our guest of honor, George, to talk to us about the Honor and Remember flag and his mission with that. Welcome again, and thank you, Ken, for the tour of the Capitol. I think everybody appreciated that. I want to thank Sandy DeRaps. She did all the work on this end here in Jeff City and calling a lot of people and setting everything up. Thank you, Sandy. Great job. Our speakers today come from our federal and state government offices, and they'll speak, like I said before, George will. Most of the women here today who are dressed in white represent the American Gold Star Mothers. And I just want to assume that everybody knows who the Gold Star Mothers are. We are an 82-year-old organization that was started in World War I, and we represent the mothers. We are the mothers who have lost sons and daughters during military service to our country, just in case you didn't know. Sadly, in the last 24 hours, another 8 U.S. families are living the nightmare we've experienced. We've lost 8 in Afghanistan. And I'd like to take a moment to pray for these families and all of our troops serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and all around the world. Thank you. Our first speaker today is Brian Nieves. He was elected to his first term in the Missouri House of Representatives in November 2002 and sworn into Missouri's 92nd General Assembly in January 2003. Soon thereafter, Mr. Nieves was elevated to a leadership position as a member of the Majority Whip team. With less than 2 months under his belt, Brian accomplished something perhaps no other freshman legislator had and was appointed to serve as Chief Deputy Majority Whip. With this position, he was also invited to have a seat at the Speaker's leadership table. Recognizing his hard work and dedication, Brian's colleagues have re-elected him each year to serve as their Majority Whip. He's now serving his 8th year in this capacity and has held the longest tenure of any current member of House leadership. I'm going to cut his bio down a little, but prior to serving in the Missouri legislature, Representative Nieves served approximately 10 years on active duty in the U.S. Navy as a corpsman. Love those Navy corpsmen. With the majority of his time spent alongside U.S. Marines. Semper Fi. During his national service, Brian received many leadership awards as well as several medals and commendations. Mr. Nieves.
Well, I promise that my remarks will be more brief than my bio. For you Gold Star moms, you know, I had the distinct honor of being a Navy corpsman for 10 years. The majority of that time was spent, and I can say this because I was a corpsman and get away with it, babysitting Marines. And see, there was a Marine back there nodding. He knows that. Corpsmen can say things that anybody else would be killed for saying, and sometimes we take advantage of it. But I frequently say, whether it's at a political event or maybe on the House floor in the Missouri House of Representatives or maybe on a radio show that I do every day, that the way that a nation treats her veterans in general speaks volumes of that nation. But more importantly and more specifically, the way we honor those who have given the absolute ultimate sacrifice. And I will tell you as a dad, I don't know really how you can measure the sacrifice that is given for a person who gives their life in the service of their country. And as a dad, I can tell you, I have 3 children. My son talks a lot about going into the military and talks a lot about being a Marine. And I just, when I see you Gold Star moms and when I know what you stand for and our feeble attempt to honor you, this is a feeble attempt. No matter what we do, it is a feeble attempt to honor you. And so how a nation treats her veterans speaks volumes of that nation, but how we treat the honor and the memory of those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, as well as the families that have had to endure that loss, really even more specifically speaks of that nation. So to all of you Gold Star moms and the whole entire mission that this great organization serves, I just want to say thank you for what you do, and I know there's no way that this nation will ever be able to thank you sufficiently for the sacrifice you've endured. So thank you for being with us this afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. My name is Brian Nieves. I serve the 98th District in the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate that. My son was a Marine, and I guess he still is, guarding the gates of heaven. And we really appreciate, like I said, you corpsmen. I know you guys have a special bond. Okay. Our next guest is a staff representative for U.S. Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer, Ms. Carrie Dozier.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to be here representing Congressman Luetkemeyer. He is in Washington, D.C., trying to serve the proud people of the 9th Congressional District. I'm so pleased to be here to honor military families, especially the military mothers. My mom is a military mom, and so my hat's off to you. Our military men and women are the world's stewards of democracy. The love of country and freedom is so strongly felt by those Americans who answer the call of service. And while we celebrate their bravery, we also honor the families. We thank the mothers, fathers, the spouses, the children, and the communities that help support these soldiers. As free Americans, we come to expect freedom. As military families, you understand the true cost of those expectations, and we thank you. Families are an important part of our nation's defense, and unfortunately, we sometimes forget that. And so today, I am proud to be here to honor the sacrifices that you have made as these military families. It's my honor to be a part of this ceremony and to represent the 9th Congressional District. May God keep us safe.
Thank you, Carrie. Now we will hear from the staff representative for U.S. Senator Claire McCaskill, Katie Dysinger.
I'm so pleased to be here today with the Gold Star mothers and everyone else. On behalf of Senator McCaskill, I would like to thank all of these devoted mothers, fathers, and other family members. For reaching out to our office about this event, I would also like to thank Miss Katie Milius, mother of fallen hero Corporal Riley Baker. And we are honored to have George Lutz in our great state of Missouri and would like to thank him for raising awareness of the Honor and Remember flag. Claire sends me here today with a message of her deepest respect and honor and has been prevented from attending only by her voting duties in the United States Senate. She is extremely humbled by our fallen warriors and humbled by these mothers and other family members who carry themselves with such dignity and poise. As most of you know, Missouri is very proud of our members of the military. We have as many as 500,000 veterans in this state, in addition to the thousands of active duty, Guard, and Reserve members who serve in all of the services. So many of them are the lifeblood of our communities. Missouri has people fighting on the front lines in Iraq, Afghanistan, and all around the world. Real heroes out there reaching real people. Claire is very proud of Missouri's bravest, and she works each day to honor those folks and their families. Groups like the Gold Star Mothers keep America focused on the big picture, how we got our hard-won freedom and how to keep that freedom. And for that, Claire thanks you. You may be interested to know that Claire is a firm believer in displaying pride through service banners and flags. She recently joined with Senator Jim Webb to introduce the Blue Star, Gold Star Act of 2010, which protects families of service members who want to honor their loved ones through display of service banners in their homes. We have had cases when homeowners associations have tried to prevent the display of these flags, which Claire feels is just plain wrong. Claire also joined with Senator Kit Bond from Missouri to introduce a resolution supporting the designation of May 1st as Silver Star Service Banner Day to honor wounded warriors and their families for their sacrifice. The Silver Star Families of America, a Missouri-based group, has been tirelessly advancing this cause for many years, and we are proud of their dedication to America's military service members. Again, Claire sends me here today with a message of her deepest respect and honor. We stand with you in remembrance, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie. Besides the Gold Star mothers here today, their families, sons, daughters, siblings, husbands, are all here in attendance also. And I just want to welcome everybody. I think George can pretty much introduce himself. I don't know what I can say any more eloquently than what he can tell you about, but this is the reason we're here today is to have George tell us about his mission and who he is as a Gold Star father. Thank you.
I'm going to pull this off, Sarah. I hope that doesn't mess you up. Okay. What an honor and a blessing it is to be here with you in such a prestigious place. And I'm told that the Capitol here mirrors the Capitol in Washington. And I also was told today that Missouri was the show me state. I wasn't exactly sure which state was the show me state, but Terry informed me this is it. And I hope that I can show you something today and touch you in a special way that you haven't been touched before. And I will start it by saying this. It was said earlier, but on December 30th of 2005, I got a knock on the door that no parent ever wants to receive. And that knock was 2 uniformed soldiers who came with the news, "We regret to inform you." Those words are still ringing in my head even 5 years later, because it's the most devastating thing a parent can hear. And what you do at that moment and where that takes you is unlike anything in your life that you could ever expect. And you can't plan for that. You can't think about it. You can't wrap yourself around it until finally it happens. And then you can't deal with it. And I want to give you a little insight. All of these precious mothers here have been through this, but those beyond in the back there may not know exactly what that means. And I want to walk you a little bit through my experience, which I know is common to everyone who has been through this and lost a loved one. One of the things that I gravitated towards in this process of grieving, first you go through all those steps of anger and disbelief and unacceptance to a point where you're hoping that maybe those 2 guys came to the wrong door, or maybe he was just wounded and he's okay. But the inevitable finally sinks in, and as you start making those phone calls and you reach out to your family members and you're trying to gather whatever physical support you can, the trauma is unimaginable. But what happens when you start to ease a little bit and you begin to realize that nothing's changing, that it really did happen, is I began a search of memories. I began to reach out to my own household and try to find anything I could that had anything to do with his memory. He had been married and had left the house a while ago. He was 25 when he was killed. But yet, I had many things still in the house, photographs from his entire lifespan. I had videotapes. I had emails. I even had a letter. He wasn't much of a writer, but I had 2 handwritten letters that he had sent from the field, from Iraq. And those were precious things to me. But those memories came to an end because you can only open so many drawers and so many boxes and so many closets. And then what you do is you reach out to his friends and you wonder what they have. And you begin to look around and say, oh gosh, you knew Tony. Do you have any pictures? Does he ever write to you? Do you have any stories? I want to hear everything I can because I want that memory to live one more day. And I don't know how the mothers here felt, but I got very afraid that maybe I'd forget what he looked like. Or maybe I forget what he sounded like. And that became a fear of mine. And how do you hold on to that, though? It's very difficult. So after the friends, I went out to his buddies that he served with. And I wanted to embrace anything about how he served in the military. He had gone through 2 years of training, schools, jumping, language, so many things to get him prepared to be that soldier that he was. So how was he perceived by those around him? That became important to me because I wanted to hear those stories. As a dad, I wanted to know that others were proud of him too. And the stories still come 4 years later, once in a while. But all of that comes to an end. And at the end of that journey, if you will, that we all have gone through, I began to look at how this country remembers. Because he died for his country. He died to maintain freedom for all of us. And I wanted to know how this country remembered. Because I wanted to embrace it, honestly. Remember, as a parent, I want to embrace everything. Every time I hear his name is on a wall, I want to see it. I want to be a part of it. And I began to realize that the veterans in this country and the military do an amazing job of remembering. They're the ones that build these memorials. If you think about it, they're built by veterans for veterans. And I thought that was wonderful. But I was looking beyond that because what came to me was that they are a small universe, those patriots who get it. But there's a universe out there of the general population who have no clue that we're still in Iraq or Afghanistan. They weren't around to appreciate the Vietnam vets when they came home. There's a population out there that doesn't understand. And I realized that very quickly because the mindset that I found was that we will support our troops every day. But when we lose one, we all think this. I thought we have a day to remember them. We're going to remember them on Memorial Day. And we're kind of okay with that. I was. But once my son was killed, I realized there's not a day that goes by that I don't remember. And as I talk to his friends, there's not a day that goes by that they don't remember. And we do everything as family to remember. We have streets named after our kids. We have buildings named after our kids. We have tattoos named after our kids because we want to remember. And so as I saw the banners around the country, and I'd hear the prayers for our troops, I'd think to myself, and I have to say this honestly, selfishly, where was his tribute? Because he wasn't one of those troops anymore. He gave his life. And as I looked around for some public symbol of recognition for that sacrifice, I couldn't find anything. I knew that the wonderful and beautiful monuments and memorials that were built, 90% of the country would never see them. They just would never see them, no matter how beautiful. Most of the West Coast is not coming to Washington to see the amazing Vietnam War Memorial or the newly constructed World War II Memorial. It's just not happening. So I thought, America needs some way to recognize that sacrifice comes, that freedom comes at a price, and it is at that price of sacrifice. And I began to attend the funerals and the memorials of those that were killed after my son and in the area of Virginia, as close as I could, and I'm sure the moms here are attending those services as well. And I began to speak to those families. And as I met those families, began to meet the American Gold Star mothers and speak to the generations of them going back to Vietnam and Grenada and prior, I realized two important things that were my same cry. Please don't let this have been in vain, and please don't let them be forgotten. And I will tell you that I have found that as long as the American flag flies freely above this country on any soil, no sacrifice will ever have been in vain. Never. This is the greatest country on earth, and we are the benevolent country. But it brought me to the remembrance part, because we all walk around caught up in our daily lives, forgetting the price of freedom. And I thought, what can we do on the remembrance? And I saw the POW flag flying everywhere. Everywhere I went, the POW flag was flying, and I thought, what an honor that was, that a military symbol was given the status of adoption in this country, to remember that group that were missing or captured. And then I took a pause and I thought, the fallen need a flag. Those that gave their lives from the beginning of our country's history needed representation in a public way. And as I looked around at all the flags we have in this country for everything, we have flags that recognize everything. We have state flags. Every branch of the service has a flag. Whatever college you attended or high school, they have their own flags. Every ship in the Navy has its own flag. But the group that gave their lives in selfless service to this country had no emblem by which this public could say thank you and recognize the price of that freedom. And so, 2 years ago, I have to walk over here, but you can still hear me. Let me hold that back, please. The Honor and Remember flag was unveiled publicly on Memorial Day, May 26, 2008. I don't know if would you like to help? It was established to become a national symbol. A national symbol recognizing all lives lost in military service to our country from the beginning of our country's history till now and beyond. The symbolism behind this flag: the red field stands for the sacrifice of bloodshed. The white field beneath it stands for the purity of that sacrifice, because our men and women, each one of them, and I know you mothers can attest to this, said, "Don't worry, I've got it covered. I'll be back." The blue star in the center, we had it mentioned earlier. The blue star, going back to World War I, was a solid blue star, and still is, hung on a banner for those military families to let others know that they have someone in service. The gold star overlaying that blue star is where we get the term Gold Star Mother. It's meant that that life was lost. Gold Star Father, Gold Star Family. The folded flag beneath these stars we all recognize universally as a folded flag handed to a family at the loss of their loved one. The flames above it, an eternal reminder that we will never forget. And the words beneath, we will always honor their sacrifice and remember them specifically by name, because each one of our loved ones had a name. They weren't statistics, they weren't numbers. And they had family and friends and comrades and those that served with them and knew them and loved them and remember them. Thank you. And I am on a journey, 50 states. It looks like maybe 25,000 miles, as best I can interpret it now, to reach every state capital, to meet with veterans and patriots like yourselves, and to spend time sharing with Gold Star families, because that is my heart, and bring this mission and this message everywhere that I can, so that this flag is flying, not only federally, but every state will decide to fly this flag in remembrance of those that sacrificed their lives in that state. And so far I've been through 17 states, and I guess 33 more to go, and yes, including Alaska and Hawaii. And my mission will end in Arlington Cemetery on Veterans Day, November 11th, for a special ceremony where we will plant honor and remember flags on the 5,000 graves there in Arlington. But one special piece of the honor and remember flag, as I mentioned, it's about remembering individual names. And my mission is not just to have this flag flying publicly, a piece of cloth flying in the wind that many will pass by and ignore anyway. But it is to remember those lives lost. And the design of the flag enables it to be personalized. And one of the things that I have made as my mission is to be able to present flags to families who have lost a loved one, regardless of generation, and to reach every family who has ever lost someone in this nation. And you can imagine that that's a huge task, because there are tens of thousands of families that have experienced that loss and will never have their family at their table again. And it's a big job. But today, I have a special presentation that you will witness and join me in. And the moms know that some of them have received this flag, some of them will yet to receive this flag, and some will receive a flag today.